This is the Mount of Venus. Its size and shape controls just what you'd expect. And these are the mounts of Jupiter, Saturn, Apollo the Sun, and Mercury. These control many qualities, from wisdom to business aptitude. But most fitting is the Mount of Jupiter. It controls superstition. Destiny is laid out in a pattern we cannot change. It is written in our hands, and there is no escape possible. Even if it is some fearful secret of sin, some blood-red sign of crime. Accomplished the dark deed, which I know must shock and grieve you unutterably. After long hours, nay days of tortured thought, I have at last faced the fact that I had no alternative. It began at Lady Windermere some 5 months ago. Was it only 5? A great permanence of affection, I see. Yes, a line of heart.
Do be indiscreet, Mr. Rogers.
Nothing would give me greater pleasure, Lady Windermere.
Oh, give him your hand again, my dear. Please.
Yes. Recently returned from a voyage abroad, where certain affairs of the heart proved most exciting, though, in the end, I'm sorry to say, disappointing.
That will do, I believe. Isn't he wonderful? Come, Mr. Podgers. I want you to read Sir Thomas's hand. Sir Thomas? Surely you're not going to quail at the revelation of your past.
Delighted, Lady Windermere. One has no shame at my age, you know.
One should have none at any age, I think. Too confining.
Please be seated, Sir Thomas. Yes, a most adventurous life, Sir Thomas. Many long voyages. Shipwrecked twice, yes, twice so far. Although there still may be another. Born in India, I believe. Seriously ill there at the age of 6. With... Yes, with malaria. And a very close brush with a tiger.
That's extraordinary. Really, most extraordinary. That do with the tiger, I'd completely forgotten about.
Could I see your other hand, please?
Isn't it mysterious, Arthur?
Yes, isn't it?
Lady Windermere always has the most magnificent receptions. She asks such original people.
Doesn't she? Tell me, Sybil, would you like to have your hand read?
Oh, no. I should be a very poor subject. You see, I don't believe in it.
I don't suppose that would bother Podgers in the least. You know, Sybil, you're looking particularly beautiful and radiant tonight.
Thank you. Do you suppose the announcement of our engagement has anything to do with it?
I should like to hope it has.
Fire. Yes. I should strongly advise in the near future, Sir Thomas, an unusual prudence in the handling of fire.
Oh? Ah, yes, indeed. Always have, you know. Always do. My dear.
Thank you. But I'm quite certain my past contains activities that I do not care to have exhumed. I shall decline. Oh, Lady Marvel, how cruel of you. I wouldn't think of having my hand read less than twice a week. Mr. Podger tells me that I have a pure psychic hand, and that if my thumb had been the least bit shorter, I should have been a confirmed pessimist. Has he been telling fortunes long? Yes, and misfortunes too, any amount of them. In fact, next year I'm going to be in great danger both from land and from water. So I'm going to live in a balloon and have my dinner sent up in a basket every evening.
Lady Windermere, do you suppose that Mr. Podgers would mind reading my hand?
Oh, no, Arthur, please.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Of course not, Lord Arthur. That's what she's here for. But I warn you beforehand, I shall tell Sybil everything. So if Mr. Podgers finds out that you have a bad temper, or a wife living in Bayswater, I shall let Sybil know at once.
No, I'm not afraid of that. Sybil knows me as well as I do her.
Oh, my dear boy, I'm so sorry to hear you say that. The proper basis for marriage is a firm mutual misunderstanding, I think.
Oh, yes, that's because you're too cynical.
No, not at all, but I have experience, which is the same thing, I suppose. Mr. Podgers, Lord Arthur is dying to have his hand read. Now, you must tell him something nice, because he's a special favorite of mine.
Delighted, Lord Arthur. Please. Well, I'm waiting, Mr. Podgers.
We're all waiting. I believe Arthur must be going on a stage or something dreadful. And after your warning, Mr. Podgers is afraid to tell him so.
Well, it's the hand of a charming young man.
Of course it is. But will he be a charming husband? That's what we want to know.
All charming young men are.
I don't think husbands should be too fascinating, you know. Oh, my dear, they never are too fascinating. But what we want are the details. What is going to happen to Lord Arthur?
Well, in a short time, Lord Arthur will go on a voyage, I should say.
Of course, his honeymoon. What else?
Oh, and lose a relative. Oh, but only a distant relative, you understand.
Oh, well, no one minds about distant relatives nowadays. They went out of fashion years ago. But is that all you have to tell us?
Oh, I'm afraid so, yes.
Oh, how disappointing. Now I've got absolutely nothing to tell Sybil. Well, shall we all go to supper? I'm afraid they won't have left us much to eat, but we might find some biscuits. You know, Francois used to be so excellent. And now he gets so agitated over politics.
Mr. Podgers. Wait, Mr. Podgers. Tell me what you see there. And I must insist on a straightforward answer.
Oh, another time, Lord Arthur. Another time I should be most glad to, but supper is waiting.
No, never mind. There's no hurry. Go on, I'm not a child.
What makes you think I saw anything more on your hand, Lord Arthur? More than I told you.
Well, of course you did. I insist that you tell me what it was. And I'm quite prepared to pay you £100 for the information.
Guineas?
Well, very well. I'll send you a check in the morning.
You'd better sit down,
No,
Lord Arthur.
never mind that. Just tell me what you see there.
Very simply, Lord Arthur, I see murder.
Do you mean I shall be...
No, Lord Arthur.
But that's impossible, sir. How dare you suggest that
Your
I might
lordship
not...
forgets I begged not to tell his hand.
Yes, that's true, but I can't believe that I would ever commit a... Are you quite positive?
The mark of the murderer is most distinctive, Lord Arthur. It cannot be mistaken. I'm very sorry, sir.
Although at the time I was upset at Podger's prophecy, still I wasn't yet convinced that I might be called upon to carry out this awful deed. I thrust the matter to the back of my mind, and as was my habit, went to my club. Sure.
Mr. Podgers.
Yes?
No, an extraordinary thing has happened.
Really? Oh, nothing serious, I trust, Sir Thomas. What's happened to your hands?
I dropped the blasted nightlight. Stumbled, you know, going upstairs. Oil and flames all over the place. Had a devil of a time getting it smothered. It's a wonder I didn't burn the place down. It's a curious thing, you know. You warned me about fire last night. I may say I didn't take it very seriously, but you must have seen something in my palm.
So Podgers was right. I had always believed our destiny is laid out in a pattern we cannot change. But could it be that it is written in our hands? If so, there was no escape possible. I had to commit a murder. I felt a mad desire to stop the casual passerby and tell him everything. If it were true that this fate were in store for me, then to marry you would be the basis of betrayal. What happiness could there be for us, Savile, when at any moment I might be called upon to carry out the awful prophecy written in my hand?
Sybil, my dear, I have something very, very difficult to say to you. And I'm afraid that I can give no very satisfactory explanation of my behavior. But I'm afraid that we must postpone our marriage for the time being.
But Arthur, I don't understand. Why should we?
I'm afraid I can't tell you that, my dear. I can only ask you to trust me. I fully realize how difficult this is going to be for you, and I wish I could tell you more. I can only say that it's an entanglement that neither honor nor duty will allow me to ignore. And until I'm rid of it, I'm not a free man.
Is it a woman?
Yes, no, I assure you it's not. And I can only ask you to trust me and have no doubts. And I'm certain that everything will come right in the end.
You know I have the utmost faith in you. I will be patient.
Thank you, my dear. Well, now, shall we continue with the game?
All right, my dear. Your play, I believe. You'll have to tell Father, of course. Would you like to do it now?
No. I mean, I think I'd prefer to write him a letter.
I next selected my partner for this enterprise, choosing from among my relatives, since Podgers had said that I would lose one soon. I chose in the end a distant cousin, Lady Clementina Beecham, who for one thing was quite old and couldn't reasonably expect to live much longer, and for another was extremely fond of me, and of a most generous nature, so that I felt certain if she knew the boon she would confer upon us, she would do so most cheerfully.
There you are. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Phillips.
Oh, how do
Have
you...
you, any anatime?
Anatine, Lord Arthur?
Yes.
It's quite a powerful poison, you know. One really should have a medical certificate, I fear.
Oh, really? How trying. I merely wanted us to do away with the Norwegian mastiff that's been showing signs of incipient rabies. He's bitten the coachman already twice in the leg, you know.
Oh, in that case, I'm sure it'll be quite all right. And I'll be most happy to furnish it.
Thank you.
And I must compliment you on your knowledge of toxicology.
Tell me, have you got it in some form easy to administer?
Oh, yes, ma'am. A capsule of gelatin, I would suggest.
Oh, that would be excellent. Would you be so good as to put it on my bill, Mr. Phillips?
Oh, yes, certainly.
You naughty fellow, why haven't you been to see me all this time?
Well, to tell the truth, dear aunt, I never have a moment to myself.
I suppose that means that you've been spending all your time with Sybil Merton, buying chiffons and talking nonsense.
On the contrary, I rarely see her these days. As far as I can make out, she belongs almost exclusively to her milliners.
Of course, that's the only reason you come and see an ugly old woman like myself. Doctors are no good at all. Except to send fees to one. They can't even cure my heartburn.
Ah, your heartburn, dear aunt. Now, I wanted to talk to you about that. I brought you the most wonderful new cure, invented by an American.
I don't like American inventions, Arthur. I read some American novels lately, and I found them most nonsensical.
Ah, but there's no nonsense about this. It's a perfect cure. Now, you will promise to take it now, won't you?
The box is charming, certainly. Is it a present?
Yes, for you.
Oh, how very sweet of you. And there is a wonderful medicine. I shall take it at once.
Oh, no, you mustn't. No, you mustn't. You mustn't do that. Now, you see, it's a homeopathic medicine. And you must wait until you have an attack before you take it. Otherwise, there's no saying what harm you may do. No, wait until you have an attack, then take it. You'll be astonished at the result.
I should like to take it now. As a matter of fact, though I hate doctors, I love medicine.
Mm-hmm.
However, I shall keep it until my next attack.
Will that be soon?
Well, not before a week, surely. I had a very bad attack yesterday morning. Still, one never knows.
I suppose you're bound to have an attack before the end of the month.
Oh, I'm afraid so. How very sympathetic you are today, Arthur. I think that Sybil has been very good for you. But you must go now, dear. I'm dining with some very dull people who won't talk scandal. And I know that if I don't get my sleep now, I shall never be able to keep awake during dinner. Do give my love to Sybil. And thank you for the American medicines. Goodbye, dear.
Oh, Aunt Clem, you won't forget to take it, will you?
Oh, of course not, you silly boy. It was very kind of you to think of me. And I shall write and tell you when I want some more.
Oh, yes, do. Feeling it prudent to avoid even the most remote possibility of connection with the coming event, I was off to the Shire the next day, where I enjoyed a pleasant interval of hunting, secure in the knowledge that I had done my part, and now I had only to wait patiently for a little while, and all would be well. And indeed, it was less than a fortnight before the telegram arrived, which announced the demise of my dear cousin, Lady Clem. Sybil, darling, I have the grandest, the most wonderful news in the world.
Arthur.
We can be married at once. I already have your father's permission.
Oh, Arthur, how wonderful.
Let's see now. How would tomorrow be? Or the day after tomorrow?
No, you silly boy. Why, the cake isn't even ordered yet. But it can be soon, though. And I, for one, find the prospect most attractive.
But how soon?
Perhaps 3 weeks.
3 weeks? All right, but not an instant longer.
Well, well, well. Well, shall we fix a date for, say...
In 3 weeks' time, Papa.
3 weeks. That will bring us to, see, the 8th of next month. Are we all agreed?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Good, good. I like to get these things over with, you know.
Oh, Mother, I'm so happy.
This calls a little celebration. I'm glad everything's settled, my boy. It is, of course.
Oh, yes, it is.
I don't mind saying I was a little put back with you postponing things, you know. All that blather about honor and duty. I couldn't make head nor tails of it. Ah, well, I got over it, and it's all in the past now, isn't it?
Yes.
Everything's being put quite right, sir.
Oh, yes, quite right, sir.
Nothing further can interfere, eh?
Oh, no, indeed, sir.
You're quite sure, huh?
Yes, quite sure.
Sorry to hear about your cousin, Lady Clementina. Very fond of her myself.
Yes, sir. Weren't we all?
Oh, well, we all have to go, and she led a very long and useful life.
Yes, didn't she? Most useful.
Well, bless you, dear children.
Besides having died quietly and helpfully on schedule, the dear old lady had also left her small estate and charming house to me, which I thought a most touching gesture on her part, under the circumstances. You remember, Sybil, the day you helped me sort through her personal effects in an effort to get her account straight for her solicitor.
Oh, Arthur, how charming.
What is it, darling?
This little silver bonbon here. Isn't it quaint?
Oh, yes. Yes.
May I have it, Arthur?
Of course you may have it, my dear. As it happens, I gave it to poor old Lady Clem myself.
Thank you. It's so attractive. May I have the bonbon, too?
What bonbon, Sybil?
Don't touch it.
What's the matter, Arthur? You look so strange.
I hadn't killed him. She had simply died as Podgers had foretold. I had it all to do again. So here I was back where I first started, with a murder still to be committed before I could marry. But if, before our wedding, I could commit a murder which would never be discovered, then I could stand before the altar and give my life into your hands without terror of wrongdoing. Therefore, reluctant as I was to suggest a further postponement of our marriage, there seemed to be no alternative.
Confound it, sir. This is beyond endurance. My wife was taken to her bed. My daughter periodically dissolves in tears, and all you could do is to sit there and tell me absolutely nothing, except that the marriage has to be again postponed for reasons beyond your control, which you cannot reveal. Well, sir, it won't do. I won't have it. Don't you realize the dress has already been ordered, even the cake, and literally hundreds of other details arranged? It's absolutely preposterous.
Yes, it is. I entirely agree with you, sir, but...
We'll either follow through with the plans that exist or abandon them entirely, and that is my final word. Now then.
Well, I entirely sympathize with your feelings, sir, but don't you see that
Let's get this straight, now and forever. Do you wish to marry my daughter Sybil, or do you not?
Yeah, I do. I assure you I do. It's my most fervent wish. But it's the problem
Do you wish to marry my daughter Sybil on the date that has been set, exactly as has been planned, or shall we have done with this business here and now, once and for all?
I'm quite prepared to go ahead with things as planned, sir. I'll make arrangements. Somehow. I had lost a relative as Podgers had prophesied, but a murder was still to be committed, and long enough before the wedding to be certain that it would go undetected. Thus it needs must be done not in a matter of days, but almost in a matter of hours. After careful consideration, I selected my next victim, the Dean of Chichester. But the choice of method was much less simple. Obviously, some kind of explosive device would be desirable because of the pressure of time. But I was at a loss as to where and how to procure such a thing. Until suddenly I happened to think of my friend, Count Ruvalov, a man of revolutionary tendencies.
Well, come in, my dear fellow. So nice to see you.
And you, Ruvalov. I've come to see you about, well, it's a rather delicate matter, and I thought you might be able to help me. I'm looking for some kind of, explosive machine. You know the sort of thing, something capable of blowing up someone. Do you know the sort of person I might get that device from?
My dear boy. So you have at last taken politics up seriously. I cannot tell you how pleased I am.
No. I'm not really interested in social or religious problems, Ruvalov. No, what I'm really looking for is something for a purely personal problem.
Oh, I cannot tell you how deeply disappointed I am, Arthur. However, I know a man who can help you. His name is Herr Winkelkopf.
Winkelkopf, well, that's absolutely splendid. Do you suppose you can give me his address?
I will write you out an introduction.
Count Ruvalov gave me this letter of introduction to you, Herr Winkelkopf. I'm here on a matter of business. My name is Smith, Robert Smith. And I wondered if you could find me some kind of explosive machine.
Charmed to meet you, Lord Arthur.
No.
Oh, don't look so alarmed. It's my duty to know everybody. And I remember seeing you one evening at Lady Windermere's. I hope her ladyship is quite well. Oh, why don't you sit down?
Oh, thank you.
Now then, you say you wish an explosive machine. What sort do you have in mind?
Well, I'm not entirely certain, Herr Winkelkopf. I was hoping that you could advise me about that. I'm looking for something which you could send to someone which would blow up at a given hour. Huh?
Uh-huh. Why not a clock, then?
Well, that sounds like a capital idea. As it so happens, it's intended for a person who's extremely fond of clocks.
Oh, excellent. Just so... would you like a cup of tea? No, thank you. I just had that I have here... that I have here something... No. I hear something which might... I hear something which might very well serve our purpose. Now, where is it? Oh, here it is. Now. Now. There. What do you think of it?
Well, it looks beautiful, Herr Winkelkopf. It's perfect. It couldn't be better. Now, if you'll just tell me how it goes off, we'll get it into the...
That is my secret, Lord Arthur. But you need only tell me where you wish it to go and when you wish it to explode, and I'll take care of everything.
No, I'm afraid I can't tell you that. No, it's a purely personal matter. I really much prefer to...
Lord Arthur, please. You surely cannot believe that I would ever divulge any arrangement we might have made under any circumstances.
No, of course you wouldn't, no. Well, it's to go to the Dean of Chichester, then.
The Dean of Chichester? Dear me, I had no idea that you felt so strongly about religion. Few young men do nowadays.
No, I'm afraid you flatter me, Herr Winkelkopf. I'm really not interested in theological problems. No, it is purely a personal problem.
Oh, very well, then.
Well, look, now, if you could get it off at once, today... Huh?
Oh, I'm afraid that is impossible. I have some important work on hand for some friends in Moscow. Still, I can manage it tomorrow.
Oh, well, that will do perfectly, then. Now, let's see, tomorrow is Thursday. I want you to set the time of the explosion for 12 noon on Friday. You see, the Dean is always in the library at that hour.
Friday at noon.
And now, perhaps, Herr Winkelkopf, you will tell me how much I am in your debt.
Oh, Lord Arthur, that is such a small matter that I cannot charge you anything. The powder comes to
7 and 6 pence, and the clock will be £3.10, and for the carriage, about 5 shillings. That is all. I'm only too pleased to oblige any friend of Count Rubano.
Well, that's kind of you, but for your trouble.
Oh, that is nothing. I do not work for money. It's a pleasure to me.
Thank you. And here is the
Six. Yeah. Oh, good day.
Why, Papa, what a charming little clock. Where did it come from? Why, it's simply enchanting, don't you think? The little figure is so dainty and French. Did some admirer send it to you?
Yes, dear.
Cook says that luncheon will be a few minutes late. But you won't let it put you into one of your towering rages, will you?
I shall try and control myself, Jane.
I found myself wishing most fervently that I had never embarked upon a scheme at all, or at least had made arrangements which left things less to chance. But there was no turning back. The hour had come. Whatever had happened, there was nothing I could do about it. And it was only a moment or two before I felt quite certain that events had gone off exactly as planned. However, no such confirmation appeared that afternoon. Nothing came on the ticker tape. So that evening I went down to Chichester and called at the deanery.
Hello, Saunders. I happen to be in the neighborhood, thought I'd just pop in and pay my respects to the Dean.
Well, hello, my boy. How nice to see you.
It's nice to see you looking so well, Uncle Ambrose.
Sit down, my boy. Sit down.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
This is a pleasant surprise.
Yes, isn't it?
It's so nice of you to stop by, Arthur. It's too bad Mother and Maria are out, but do stay.
Oh, I wish I could, but, well, you must tell me all your news. Mother will be bound to ask, you know. Has anything exciting happened to you recently?
Oh, nothing exciting ever happens to us, I'm afraid.
You might tell him about the clock.
Yes, the clock, do, please.
Oh, yes, I'd forgotten about the clock. It was most amusing. Well, it came for Papa day before yesterday, from some unknown admirer. Papa put it on the table here, and yesterday, just at noon, when it struck 12, we heard a whirring noise, which was followed by a rather loud pop.
Is that all?
And a little puff of smoke came from the pedestal with the figure on top, and she fell down and broke her nose. It turned out to be an alarm clock. And if you put some gunpowder under a little cap, it will go off whenever you want. Papa said it mustn't remain here because it made a noise. So Reggie carried it off to the schoolroom where he does nothing but have small explosions all day long. Would you like him to do one for you?
No, I must be getting on my way. I have something that must be done in a great rush.
My boy, are you quite all right? You look rather ill.
I'm quite all right, thank you, Uncle. Goodbye. And I was rather hoping that you might speak to Mr. Merton on my behalf, because I would dearly love to see Sybil again.
Am I to understand that you will again ask her hand in marriage?
Yes, I had rather hoped that in the near future we might...
Lord Arthur, I love Sybil as if she were my own daughter, and I will not speak to her father for you. She'd be a dowager by the time you've been able to make up your mind. Oh, by the way, Rubelov, did you ever know the Dowager Duchess of Cholmondeley, who was frightened into a fit by a ghost?
She never fully recovered, I believe.
Oh, indeed, yes. Yes, it was verified by several members of my family, as well as by the rector of the parish.
Sir Thomas, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but it is most important that I see Sybil again.
Not so very important to my way of thinking. You've kept the child in a pool of tears with your many postponements.
Yes, I know, sir, but that is because it was a matter of duty.
Duty, sir? Come. Are you likening marriage to a cavalry charge?
Certainly not, Sir Thomas.
I haven't rode a horse for some time. I must get back to it.
Tell me, Sir Thomas, do you believe in ghosts?
Certainly, everybody does.
Well, then you believe in destiny, that it's written out for us.
To what book are you referring, my boy?
Oh, not a book, Sir Thomas, but in the palm. It is a sacred duty to carry out our destiny, even though that may mean murder.
Murder? Oh, really, my boy? You're carrying things a little too far. And I must say, I should think twice before giving you permission to see my daughter.
You don't have one, do you?
No.
I didn't think you did.
Well, if I did, I wouldn't... I dare say.
Quite.
Oh, by the way, Lord Arthur, who did you say wrote that book on destiny?
No, Sir Thomas, not a book. No, you see, I once knew a man in whose hand was written the sign of the murderer.
By Jove, you know, I never thought of it that way. And Podgers saw my encounter with fire in my hand. It doesn't heal yet. I say, do you think we're all puppets in some monstrous show?
Well, of course, Sir Thomas. It's perfectly possible. As I was telling you, this man in whose hand was written the sign of the murderer. Now, how could he marry the girl he loved with this awful prophecy printed there? I mean, he simply had to commit murder before he could marry her.
Yes, poor chap, he has my sympathy. I hope his young lady understood.
Well,
On second thought, you know, I don't think I can sympathize. After all, what was to prevent them getting married if they were in love?
Oh, Sir Thomas, then would you place pleasure above principles?
Why not?
I was desperate, knowing that I must soon break your heart again, as well as mine. For come what might, I could not marry you as a known murderer, any more than I could take a chance of becoming one after our marriage. What was I to do? And late that night, not knowing how I got there, and caring less, I found myself wandering along the Thames embankment, gazing down into the river's murky depths, and the winking lights reflected there. I thought bitterly it would be better if I should throw myself into it than to go farther with this madness.
Lord Arthur.
Yes?
You remember me?
Oh, yes, indeed. Mr. Podgers.
And how do you do, sir?
Not well, Mr. Podgers, not well. Tell me, do you really believe that there is no possible escape from the destiny you read in my hand?
I know of none, sir.
I see. Then, are we not like chessmen, moved by some unseen power?
Oh, my dear Lord Arthur, actors are so fortunate. They can choose whether they will appear in tragedy or in comedy, whether they will suffer or make merry, laugh or shed tears. But in real life, it is different. Most men and women are forced to perform parts for which they have no qualifications. The world is a stage, but the play is badly cast.
Mr. Podgers?
Yes?
Do you think that the art of reading palms is an exact science?
Oh, of course I do.
So do I, Mr. Podgers. So do I. Therefore, may I say, I will owe to it all the happiness of my life.
Have you dropped something, sir?
What? No. Nothing of importance, officer. It seemed at that moment, dear Sybil, that my troubles had all come to a simple, happy end. How little one knows. The wedding took place some 3 weeks later. I was happy, dearest Sybil. Never for a single moment did I regret all I had suffered for your sake. One would have thought my world was perfect then. Podgers was thrust from my mind now that I was certain he couldn't appear. Poor fellow. Poor fellow. I hope things are not too bad for him, wherever he is. But I think he would have agreed with me that romance must not be killed by reality. Your father seemed quite content, too. Each day of our honeymoon was like waking from a beautiful dream in reverse. It was waking into one, not out of it. Such a 2 months I've never known. Will never know again. Nothing can take them away from me, nor dull their memories. It would seem impossible that anything could destroy or even disturb such happiness as this. And yet I feel you must have known for some time that all was not well. Perhaps even on our honeymoon, when I myself first became aware of that.
Oh, my dear child.
Oh, Lady Windermere.
Tell me what's wrong. I'm sure it's not as serious as you think.
Oh, but it is.
Oh.
There's something dreadfully wrong. Only I'm not quite sure what. You see, even on our honeymoon, he would fall into these moods of dark brooding. And since we've come back to England, these moods have become even more frequent and more hopeless somehow. But if I try and find out what is wrong, he tells me that it's nothing. And if I persist, he becomes quite upset and angry and impatient. He apologizes then, but never explains.
I'm sure there's some good reason, some simple explanation for...
So the destruction of our happiness lies in this unexpected defect in my character, this fatal flaw, of which I was quite unaware. When Podgers told me I was to become a murderer, I simply assumed that I would be a contented one, or at least not greatly disturbed. Far from it. I have been unutterably miserable, and it's growing worse.
Oh, Lady Windermere, what have I done, do you think? How have I failed him? I don't think I can stand it if Arthur is growing tired of me.
Oh, of course he isn't, my dear. I'm quite sure that he adores you. I think you're imagining these things.
Oh, no, I'm sure I'm not. Arthur's not been himself at all since we got back. He's seen no one, we've been nowhere, and you know that's not like Arthur in the least.
You must say it does seem out of character. Did he object to your coming to London with me today?
No, not at all. In fact, he seemed quite in favor of it.
And he's coming up there to join you later?
Yes, that's the plan. We're to meet at his mother's townhouse for dinner. But I have a feeling that he may not intend to be there. dear. And you will try and be on time, won't you? You know how your mother feels about punctuality.
Yes, of course. Don't worry about it, darling.
You don't mind my running off with her, do you? You're going to see her very shortly.
Yes, of course I will.
Goodbye, my dear.
Goodbye, darling.
You heard about Podgers, my palm reader, I suppose. My former palm reader, I should say.
Oh, yes. He died or something, didn't he?
Yes, his body was washed up from the river. The police called it suicide. But I'm sure it wasn't that.
Oh?
Oh, no, I'm positive it was murder.
Murder? Why do you say that?
Oh, he wasn't the type for suicide. It's most likely one of his patrons killed him. He was such a charlatan, you know.
Oh, was he? No, I didn't know.
Oh, yes. When he was to attend receptions or a party of any sort, he'd find out the names of the people who might be going there. Then he'd learn intimate little details about them from servants and others beforehand. Then, of course, he would look most impressive when he told their hands. But I didn't mind that. I didn't even mind him trying to borrow money from me. When he tried to make love to me, I thought that was really going too far.
Well, what if he had no information?
Oh, then he looked desperately alarmed and refused to say another word. Unless, of course, the person insisted. Then he would prophesy death or something horrible in ominous tones. There's no knowing how many poor souls he left in torment. Poor Flora Fotheringale, for instance, who ran off with that Maharaja, simply because Podgers had prophesied she was going on a long journey. He turned out not to be a Maharaja at all. Some sort of snake charmer, I believe. And then Augustus Dampier stealing all that money out of the bank, just because Podgers said he was going to come into a fortune. And I do believe Lady Bilton died much before her time due to his false prophecy that Lord Bilton was going to leave her. I wouldn't blame any of them for pushing him into the river.
Well, it sounds a little unusual, I must say, but I suppose it's possible, of course. Oh, by the by, would it crowd you ladies dreadfully if I were to drive up to London with you? I haven't been to the club since we came home, and I thought I might just pop in for a few moments.
We'd love to have you, dear.
Of course, there's plenty of room.
Well, I'll just get my hat and stick.
What is that, dear?
Oh, nothing of importance, my love.
Thank you, Dawson. Don't wait up.